is a form of media. And what occurred to us in developing media technology, in the media technology industry, is that media means a lot of different things. Media means books. Media means music. It means film. It means video games. And Austin, uniquely perhaps in the world, has some ways in which we can excel at that. One of those ways, we think, is tonight, is with regard to the idea of news media. And the fact that there's a tremendous amount of technology and infrastructure and data and intelligence that comes out of the news media, whether that's in social or with website analytics like Google Analytics or through your PR firm, there's a way to better benefit and leverage the news media and PR industry through what's going on in technology by way of Austin. And the best example of that is TrendKite, which is here tonight. I'll let them introduce themselves, but TrendKite. So I just wanted to finish by saying thank you. We are developing the media technology ecosystem for Austin, for Texas. We're going to have events like this every month, so I'm grateful that you're here. And more importantly, we've got a lot more that we're developing. We're developing radio shows, we're developing television shows, we're developing magazines and trade publications about media technology. A lot of the partners and supporters and evangelists and folks that can help us foster what you do, not what I do, but what you do in media and in technology, in jobs and funding and promotions. We're here to try to make that work. And tonight is an example of how we want to make that work, connecting you all. I want to point out one thing. What we're trying to do with these events is you heard this Johnny Holden play tonight. Thank you very much, Johnny. Right? Media means a lot of different things. So when we have our events, even though tonight we're going to talk about news, media, and PR, and we're going to talk about analytics, music is a part of that. That's why we're here at Antone, and I want to thank them very, very much. Each of our events tries to feature other aspects of the media. So we got music. I also want to thank Michael Hodson, wherever, right in front. Michael Hodson. Michael Hodson is the founder of Only in VR. So tonight is being produced in 360 virtual reality. They focus on developing those experiences for bands, concerts, live music. We're going to see whether or not we can do that for events. Whether or not your friends, your peers, the rest of Austin, the rest of the world can watch what we're doing on demand with Oculus, with good headsets. And so I want to thank them. The trick that I learned about this particular camera is there is no such thing as being behind it, so don't pick your nose. In fact, here you are on camera. We're all on camera. So I want to thank these guys very much. Dave Manzer from PR Over Coffee, one of the best PR strategists, news media guys in Austin. And he's going to moderate the panel tonight. Johnny Holden is up here not only because he's a musician, but because he's a fantastic journalist. He's written for the Irish Times. He's written for the Chronicle. Joe Milam, who works for Angel Span and Venture Capital, and I and Johnny have done a couple of things about money and VC for the Chronicle. That was fun. Russ Summers is the head of marketing for TrendKite, which is an analytics platform. An analytics platform, a data platform for the media industry, the PR industry. And I'm excited to hear from him because he's also a musician. And then Chad Swiatecki. Chad's essentially the journalist, the voice of the Austin music community. He's written with the Chronicle, he's written with the Monitor. And so the idea about tonight is to talk about what's going on in news, in media, in PR, but do it from a bit of a technical perspective and how we can better leverage what's out there, the infrastructure that's out there, and how to take advantage of that to better expose what y'all are doing and monetize what y'all are doing. So thank you very much, because I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to be done. You're not going to hear from me again. After the panel, we'll get back to the social tonight and go downstairs to enjoy the band. So without further ado, Dave, you want to take it over and introduce everybody and get the ball rolling? Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know about you, but I can listen to Paul go on all night. He's just a great speaker. And Paul and I go back about 6 years, back to some early co-working spaces up on North Lamar that don't exist anymore, but those were good times. We started it a few years ago. So yeah, I'm Dave Manzer, and I run PR Over Coffee, which is a community meetup. I've been running it for about 6 years now, and what we do is we focus on these kinds of events. Maybe a little bit more focused these days on panels that dive deep into certain topics. We'll do things on healthcare, for instance. We'll do things on food startups, you name it. But similar to Paul, what Paul said is that it's all about educating, sort of moving the ball forward, connecting, helping people understand that it's not some complex code that you got to crack to be able to do PR or to figure out how to do digital media for your startup. If you're a small one-person shop or a small business and you need help with some of the basics. On the other hand, our meetups are also a great place to network and meet other people, like-minded people, and even find the occasional customer if you're a marketing professional. So we really like to stir things up with our topics, but get a lot of different people and diverse voices. Paul mentioned VR, and we've got a VR camera up front here, and I know VR is pretty hot and trendy. When my daughter comes back from her first college visit, she wants to study film, and she talks about how excited she is about this one school up in North Carolina that's really big into VR. And I'm just going, oh my gosh, this is crazy, because we're going to hold a VR panel for PR Over Coffee February 7th at Mutual Local. So definitely check out the meetup group for PR Over Coffee if you're interested in VR. Want to come out to see some experts on that panel talking about it. We'd love to have you. It's free, so just go out, sign up, and show up. We'll have a lot of fun. So a little bit about me, and then we'll get to what's really important here, which is this panel. But as I mentioned, Dave Manzer, I've been doing PR and digital marketing now for about 5 or 6 years. Work a lot with the startup community, emerging enterprise, primarily here in Austin, but we've been branching out internationally in Europe. So just one of those curious little opportunities that arose, and now we have a lot of business coming out of Belgium of all places. So you never know where your next meal is going to come from. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get to the panel. Johnny Holden over here is first up, and he was regaling us with his mastery of the piano. And I know firsthand that he's really good, because I was out at Scoop Inn, where you play every Thursday. And he's awesome, and he'll do any tune that you can come up with, throw it at him, and he'll belt it out. And it's a one-man show. It's all fun. Except for Elton John. Yeah, that's right. It's a no Elton John zone. And by the way, there's a connection to music here that is lost on me, because I can't play or hold a tune, so I'm the one guy that's out of tune with everybody, so to speak. We've got Russ over here, who is, as Paul mentioned, VP of TrendKite. I'm not going to really explain a whole lot about what TrendKite does. I'm sure he'll take up the opportunity to do that with some of his explanations. But I did want to mention that something I found out about him. He has this closet side business. Actually, it's not like a closet, it's on LinkedIn. But I was just kind of like, wow, this is kind of cool. Vintage soul guitars, right? And you probably buy and reclaim and refurbish guitars and then resell them, right? So I thought that was pretty freaking cool. And it's all e-commerce driven, so if you're looking for an old banged up guitar with a lot of love, it's been brought back to life, feature him. And Chad, stalwart of just about any kind of reporting here in Austin. I met with Chad a little while ago. He was at the ABJ, Austin Business Journal, and do a lot of healthcare and creative industries reporting. Always did great work. These days he's been reporting for the likes of Spin and RollingStone.com and Culture Map Austin. So, when a project needs to be done well, fast, and right, Chad's the man. So, and all of them have this great connection to music. So let's pivot over to what we're here to talk about. And Paul has been organizing this event for about the past month and a half or so. And the focus initially was kind of like on the music media scene, and it still is. So any music-oriented questions, music industry questions, please let's have them. But we've sort of veered a little bit toward digital and analytics. And let's just get a hand real quick. How many of you are actually in startups that have something to do with digital tracking, digital analytics, predictive analysis, big data? Yeah, that's quite a few of you. So those are really buzzy terms these days, and essentially where we're headed, but with AI coming down the pike, is everything can be measured, everything can be tracked. Whereas currently, professions like PR have been considered sort of the like a black hole or a black box, where you get an article published in the Wall Street Journal, but what does that really do? How do you measure that? How do you track that? Well, TrendKite's one of those about the way they can do that and have made incredible strides towards doing that. But in the past, that was not available. So clearly, we're heading in that direction where companies that want to still engage in media outreach and placements still, they want to do that, but they want to see the proof of the pudding. They want to see the numbers. And what is that doing to drive brand awareness? What is that doing to fill out the sales funnel? And is it accelerating customer conversions and things like that? So fortunately, in this new digital metric-driven world we're living in today, with TrendKite leading the charge in many ways, we're more able to do that. But it still comes back to this: is media still relevant? Is it still important? Or are we really just looking for word of mouth through our own social channels on Twitter, Facebook? What did the friend say about this? Or what's the review on that site? Or do we really still care about what somebody says about a band? No offense, guys, but those are the questions that are swirling, and we're here to talk about. Is it important for someone who's been in the music industry for 10, 20 years, being like Chad, to be able to address that in a third-party publication in a meaningful way? So with that, and that was a long-ass introduction, I apologize. But yeah, we're done. I want to tee it up to anybody out there, but I've got some stock questions here, and these folks up here are more than welcome to chime in on any of the things we've been talking about. But does anybody have any questions out there? If you do, I'll walk out with the microphone, and then I'll walk back here and get an answer from the panel. Or I'll have you come up. Or if you don't have questions, then that's okay. We'll do it ourselves.
We should just talk amongst ourselves.
Why don't we just talk? Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. Let's start by addressing, is the media still relevant and why? Okay.
No.
I'll just show myself out. Because I don't know if I'm relevant anymore or not. But there is a value judgment as a reporter, because I do pretty regular work these days for the Austin Monitor, which is kind of a wonky, political policy focused news outlet here in Austin, kind of like the Texas Tribune, but purely for Austin. And when I'm working on 3 or 4 stories a week that I'm working on, I can tell which one of those I think are going to get a good response on social. And they still have the Facebook and Twitter metrics to show how much stuff gets shared, and your spidey sense generally is pretty right. Like, what's going to resonate and create conversations and get shared and make a story more than just a story, make it a conversation, make it something that can kind of leverage change, and other stuff's just going to be kind of dropped in and fall to the bottom of the lake. So you do kind of find yourself questioning whether, is it worth it? I mean, I think it's all worth it, but you do have to wonder, you have to kind of balance it out in terms of what's the secret sauce. And where you're thinking about analytics, I think for a reporter like myself, when I'm just getting pitched something, a publicist can hit me with, when they're pitching a band or something, they'll say, oh, they've got X million YouTube views or this many downloads. But I wish there were more ways to measure traction in meaningful ways, but that were still not easy necessarily, but relatable. And that would be helpful, just so I know that an artist really is relevant, that they're not being asked or chirped, their support's not being ginned up artificially. So that's something that I always try to measure out when I'm pitching stuff for Rolling Stone. Is this person real, or is it just a flash in the pan that was created by a huge marketing push by a label that's not going to last for more than a month? So those are kind of the questions that I always find myself wrestling with day to day, week to week. And I'll give to the analytics guy.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we continue on the panel. You sparked a question with your discussion of analytics. Don't let me interrupt.
This is free flow.
Is
Yeah,
it free flow?
we're all
Okay.
good.
Do it.
Good.
All right.
Say.
As I put down my line, I swear. We're talking about measurement. Thank you.
We all know our state today. We all know the term, alternative facts. So when it comes down to measuring, and you have a campaign, and you get pitched, or let's say, Chad, you roll out a story, and it's kind of crazy, and it has some alternative facts in there, and then you measure that, and now that's a trickle effect to where your results and your measurement are shit. they're not real. So that's, I think, where we're faced today as it crosses to technology, right? Your Twitter and your social. And so I would love to get, especially you with TrendKite, like your thoughts in terms of that. So.
Unfortunately, nobody in the PR industry has ever exaggerated it.
That is an alternative fact.
Absolutely. So that's a really good question, because the way that I think of measurement and analytics comes from my origin as kind of a digital guy, right? And I think of measuring behavior. So you can know things, to the nth degree. You drop a story in TechCrunch, you have, 10,000 people come to your website, 10% of those fill out a demo request, and you can connect with those people and you make real money that way, right? What that doesn't catch is, I think what's really important about what you said is that fake news? Is that a legitimate story? I always think in terms of measuring whether somebody feels and responds, and I think you're right, measuring the truth of things is a different question. It is a fact check type of question. I propose, though, that you can probably measure, to go out on a limb, but I think you can probably measure based on longer term behavior. Think of one of the flash in the pan bands that Chad's talking about versus a band with some lasting value. You could actually prove that out from digital analytics, not in one time slice, not in one day, but over a matter of time, right? Think of the downloads the Dave Clark 5 would get if they were around today versus the Beatles. One would be sustained and one would be like this. And that's one thing one could look at digitally.
I'll be real quick with this, but it just popped in my head. I mean, maybe if you're trying to do some at real-time analysis or analytics of a certain story, maybe there's a way you can see how new is the site. Like literally, you can automatically check the who is data and see if there's and see if that goes back to like if there's a group, one group even that is mass producing a dozen fake news sites, just to kind of make it seem like things are more omnipresent than they are, and that would degrade their score in some kind of meta analysis of the trustworthiness of a story. So it's just something that popped in my head. So somebody do that, please.
I had a question on that, because during the Trump campaign, there was a lot of criticism of institutions like the New York Times, because they're stuffy and old, and they can't be trusted because they're in their ivory towers. But you're suggesting that we kind of look, measure the age of a publication and base that on how credible they are or not.
Among other things.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's part of it. It's part of a algorithm or an equation, but you should definitely take that into consideration.
Like for instance, where that news is shared primarily, is it something that has a life only in certain social channels like Facebook? With algorithms, you can get pretty darn technical, and I think Russ can speak to that more specifically. But yeah, I almost see the future being, if a new band wants to spin up all of a sudden and get that record label or whatever it is today, that they can engage some agency that just knows how to deliver this firestorm of quote unquote fake news or alternative news or whatever, and gin it up, and all of a sudden they get whatever they want. And it could fade, who knows?
I know a guy who got you 5,000 Twitter followers for $100.
Problem solved.
But I think that's a really good point, because fake social engagement is an equivalent to fake news. You can absolutely parse those things out. Google does it with PageRank, right? With understanding the authority of one domain versus another. Not perfect, but pretty strong. You can do it with understanding, you just look at your social followers and you know who's a bot and who's not. That can be done programmatically. So I'd say that, yeah, there is actually a pretty good way, and I wasn't even thinking about the point Chad made about, some domains on the whole need to be discredited, which we do in our index, right? We filter that out and say, this is the New York Times, and it has one level of authority based on the publication, the level of social engagement, the readership of that specific article, and a couple of other things. If you start putting those things together, you start to get proxies for it. Will it be perfect? No. But can it be directionally accurate? Yeah, I think so.
There's a few things already circulating I saw in terms of who to read today, who to believe, and social, and AP was right at the top, so was Reuters, believe it or not, yeah. Anyways.
Do we have other questions? Yes, one second.
Hi. On a similar vein, as media professionals, or an aspiring media professional in my case, which my card later, what is our moral responsibility and the next step that we should take to disincentivize this type of fake news? Because, institutions like the New York Times are even using clickbait-like articles about, what's his name, and the Dippin' Dots, or whatever.
Sean Spicer,
Yeah, and how do we disincentivize the monetary, the cycle of money that's incentivizing these people to get these clicks? Because even if the metrics might not be accurate with a lot of fraud and stuff, people are still reading this stuff and believing more of the fake news stuff.
Can I answer that? On that question, what if I go and say, hey, Dave Manzer today said that media is not relevant, and I get 10,000, I know, but I say that, and I get 10,000 followers or traffic, and I get money. How do you stop people from doing that? Can you actually do that?
Can you? Great question.
Should you?
That's a different question.
Yeah, we'll concatenate those two questions. Are there any programs out there? Did I say it right? What do you think? Is it possible to, what's the moral responsibility or ethical, professional responsibility? We all know journalists are held to a higher standard in terms of true journalists, to a higher standard ethically, but what about PR professionals? I mean, should they be held to that higher standard, and how do they sniff out fake news, and then how do we ensure that Dave Manzer doesn't say stupid things like that and get a bunch of publicity for that? Because there have been some situations recently with some news ascribed to a certain CEO or business out there that's just fake, is made up, right? So how do we ensure that that's not happening as well?
Well, on the question of like an ethical code or whatever, how do you, that's just human nature, not to do that kind of stuff. It's honesty versus, there's obviously no pure objectivity, but good journalists just know when not to print something or write about something that's clearly bullshit. When something is bullshit, you know it is. Everything is skewed, everything has an agenda, whether it's conscious or unconscious, but that type of behavior is just irresponsible, in my view. I'm not standing up on some pedestal. I just think that it's kind of something you either see, you either know, or it's transparent there for you.
On the other side of that, I can't remember what outlet it was that I saw, but some reputable news outlet tracked down the originator of one of the more outlandish and virulent Hillary Clinton stories during the campaign. Not the pizza, not the pizza one, but it was another one of those. And they found the guy who originated that, who he figured out, okay, I want to write this headline. I'm going to find it. Oh no, it was that several thousand pre-filled out ballots for Hillary Clinton had been found in some red county in Ohio. And and this guy just made it up back in October. And from that story, just making it up, he made something like $5,000 in AdSense and other. So to your point, how do you fight the monetary part of that? I don't know. Maybe we have to go to Google and tell them, put a Chrome extension on all of your results that puts a reliability score on news findings, or tell Facebook that for news items that you share, there's a reliability score put on it, or it's like a green, yellow, red, color code, something like that. If someone wants to build a plugin, I'll download it right now. So I think the First Amendment, the kind of the thinking of the First Amendment is that the enemy of bad speech is more good speech. There's lots of good speech, but we have to figure out a way to make the good speech more just more well received and more easy to view.
Yeah.
And that's a sticky wicket.
There's just a quick bit of human nature in this. Mark Twain once said that a lie can get around the world before the truth can get its boots on. And that's really what we're talking about here. This is a very profound human nature thing, right? So how do we combat it? First off, do we have to combat it? I believe, as Johnny said, we do. That's just part of our responsibility, not just as journalists, but as humans. We do have a responsibility to tell the truth, and that's one of the differences between a fake news publication and a genuine publication. Whatever the bias, a genuine publication caught in a misstatement will issue a retraction, right? Now, how do we stop making it profitable is a very different question, and Google and Facebook have already talked quite a bit and done some work on, we're going to start putting, trust scores, essentially reliability scores. We're going to make it harder for people to profit off of this through AdSense. Certainly not saying they're done with it, and I'm not saying trust our good friends at Google and Facebook are benevolent overlords, right? But they do have an incentive to try to fix that, just like they have an incentive to try to fix spam. And we haven't made spam emails go away completely, we probably never will, but we've made them manageable down to a level where we can live with them, and that's what I think we can do. That looked like that question back there, so.
I was literally just going to say everything you just said.
I love you. This fellow.
Great minds think alike. There's another question over here.
I wouldn't have brought this up on my own, but since the discussion seems to be moving towards a lot of this fake news topic, to what degree do you think the rise of fake news is simply a kind of the effect rather than the cause, and is simply a reflection of the fact that people no longer trust the media or leaders? And do you think that if political leadership and media leadership could reestablish trust, would a lot of these issues sort of go away on their own?
Great.
Okay, that's the last deep question tonight, okay? We're gonna get a little lighter from here on out. Let's start with Johnny. But good.
Just to reestablish trust. So you think there was trust at one point? Well, this is the thing, is that, I mean, what is this point we're trying to get to where we get back to trusting the media or trusting politicians? I don't think it's something, it keeps getting talked about, but they're two estates, we'll say, of society that people have never particularly trusted. Because politics is polemic, it's talk, it's debate, and the media is skewed. I mean, every single publication has its agenda, whether they want to admit it or not. But in terms of what's happening right now and alternative facts and all those things, I think this is just a group of politicians and leaders who have a great handle on social media and on the technology to support that is currently the best way to communicate. That's why they're getting their argument out there. But I don't think they're any different to a lot of other governments that have come in the past. They're just very good at social media.
That's absolutely a true non-alternative fact. The other thing in terms of trust, it's interesting to note I had people at HubSpot's Inbound conference a couple months ago, and admittedly these are marketers, so you probably can't trust any of them, okay? But they ran some data on what sources individual consumers trust, and what's interesting is the number one thing they trusted was word of mouth recommendation from a friend, but the number two thing was actually, at least in that survey, earned media. Because you've got the four quadrants of media, right? Paid, earned, shared, owned, and earned media was the most trusted. So I think we have a sense that it's been eroded, in part because many of us are in media and feel it is a very bitter attack on us personally when trust is eroded. But it's still worth noting we have a higher level of trust and influence than we might think. I'm going to let an expert answer that, either of you guys know better than me.
I mean, I think in days gone by, there was a higher level of trust, but there was also just the fact that you had 3 broadcast networks and your local radio station that had a news department, and your local daily that everybody read and all that. And now you're literally blitzed every day by hundreds and hundreds of voices, and it's easy to find a voice that it might not be on the most up and up, but hey, it sounds good. I'm busy and I just like what that guy's saying. Whether it's Rush Limbaugh or someone Breitbart or on the other side, someone with MSNBC and the liberal side of the spectrum. So I don't know. I think trust has deteriorated, yes, but I also think it's just where traditional media is dying a death of 1,000 paper cuts in a lot of ways. And you know, if I'm me as a journalist, kind of the Seth Godin rule is you have to find a tribe of 1,000 people. If you're a writer on anything that's creating something, if you have 1,000 people that will follow you and invest in you, then you can make a living and keep doing it. So that's not critical mass in any way, and it just creates tons and tons and tons and tons of little tribes rather than a mass media following and trust.
Excellent. All right, Joe.
I think you made the important point is earned media. The technology has made it easier to earn an audience. And so the barrier or the bar of what earned means has dropped. And so the credibility or the value of even what's coming from earned has dropped. You know, we're talking about Edward R. Murrow, and when we had fewer outlets, they had to earn that confidence and trust and the credibility. And I think they honored it. And I think even people in the earned media that might be labeled as such, because it came easy to them due to technology and full proliferation of all these outlets, didn't have to earn it to become labeled earned media. And so the value of the content has declined. And the frequency of access to content, to your point, becomes so easy that we're satisfying short-term impulses to validate the echo chamber in which we live. People don't have to work as hard to get content that validates their opinion or fill in the blank. So the responsibility we're all talking about is that the content that is pushed out there, because what's defining value is being skewed. Followers, monetization opportunities. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Sell it, monetize it, advertise to it because you've got eyeballs. Because those eyeballs are probably looking for something that's an echo chamber. So this responsibility, I really think, is we're in the process of people saying, wait a second here, we've got to examine personally, at everybody that's in the media, what defines our own value systems? What defines us as individuals, and what's important to us? Because if you don't define that, then yeah, monetization is easy. And we can say, yes, we're in a capitalist society and it's easy to monetize, so ergo, I have value, or my opinion or my insights have value. No, you don't. You just were able to sell advertising. And so this sense of responsibility, the fourth estate does not understand the importance and the responsibility they have, because it's become easy to be viewed as earned. One minute.
Great job.
I kind of like to, and I apologize, but I kind of like to take you back to the original purpose a little bit. We can talk later. Who out of you has pitched the media in recent months, last couple of months or whatever? How many of you are PR pros versus startups or what have you? All are PR pros? Are you interested in finding out whether you should still be using press releases, or that's kind of like a common question? I'm trying to throw in a little bit of wonky stuff here to kind of line it up a little bit.
I don't use press releases.
You don't use press releases? Should they use press releases? When are press releases appropriate? What do you think?
Yeah, I get quite a few every day, and it's usually about timing more than anything else. It's not really about the importance of the story or the relevance of it. It's just if the timing is good and I need something, I use it. I'm sorry, it's the truth.
Been there. Yeah.
Should they still be in existence? I mean.
I just wrote a couple this past 2 weeks, so I don't
Yes,
know.
absolutely. They need to still be in existence.
It depends on what you want from them, right? Yeah, a lot of people are people I talk with focused on sort of the digital impact of driving SEO, and press releases generate low quality links that may actually hurt more than help your SEO depending on it. So you've got to look carefully at that if that's your objective. I do know that the journalists I know anecdotally rarely tell me, here is a great story I got through a press release. I do know other companies that use press releases as sort of a balanced part of their content strategy. They're telling an ongoing story through that, and I respect that, to get the story out and found on the web. But it needs to be part of, I think, a holistic strategy like that. It can't be, I'm going to put a press release out and hope magic happens.
Basically, it's a tool.
Yeah.
It's an important tool. And in your vertical markets, your smaller mags, your vertical worlds, they actually, that's what they publish. They're
It's
short
great
staffed.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was my target market.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, and you have to look at it as kind of a long tail thing, like if you're putting them out there, obviously make sure that they're on every digital service that you can get them on. Because, you know, for example, the Awesome Business Journal's website had, if you do a search, you can search for terms that just appear in press releases. And I've used it a lot, and I left the ABJ about a year and a half ago, and as I've been a freelancer, I've still used that to find, you know, kind of track down stuff. So make sure that it can still live beyond the initial pitch window of a week or a day or whatever. So, I mean, I think they, you know, the value in just a deep impact right away is diminishing, and I can't give you a number on it, but I think make sure that they find a way to live a long life and they can have some recurring value over the years.
I have a question.
We're getting to our last question, so I'd like to give to somebody who
I'm
hasn't
trying to get back to
asked
talk with
a
analytics.
question.
Let's do it.
Hey, my name is Jim Raybuck. I'm not a PR guy. That's why I came here, is I want to know the basic level stuff, and I appreciate all the technique stuff, but we're all passionate about it. But I think the big thing that, I don't know if there's any other startup founders here that are trying to figure out what the heck we are doing. But so we launched a company a month ago, to give a little context, and we're starting to grow. And I want to know, like, strategically, how I can start to build my PR, and then how I can build the analytics around that to be able to target the right people, and how to build these long tails that we're talking about, but how we can, like, strategically build this into an actual tool to use.
Are you talking about doing it yourself, or
Me and my team, just in general.
I mean, first of all, you've got this guy and her and other people in it. So hire professionals when you can. And I'd say it, because they know how to do these strategies. That's number one. I think, I think talk to reporters if you ever can, and try to figure out what your story is. When I was at the ABJ, for example, like, we cared about when money was changing hands, when people were getting hired and fired, or when there was some kind of massively disruptive, cool technology happening, but also had a lot of buy-in. So, like, there's kind of a high threshold there. Like, if you got, I think for funding, we only cared if you got like over $1 million or something like that. That we'd write that up and just put you in a little digest item of, hey, so and so got funding this week. So it's a pretty high bar for earned media, but talk to your publicists around here, and they can, you know, figure out different ways to slice that pie.
And to value the talking to other people, whether it's, you know, professionals that you hire or people that you meet here and talk with or whatever, those two groups are not exclusive, by the way, is they bring a third-party perspective to it. Everybody building a company thinks what I'm doing is the coolest thing ever, and our technology is the most disruptive thing ever. And it can sound like noise if you're not careful, so start with a great story and figure out who the people you're trying to influence, your customers are, and figure out what publications they read and focus there, right? And because you're trying to move the needle on the customers, you're not trying, I assume, to get coverage just for the sake of coverage. So start with that business objective. Think of a communication funnel with brand impact at the top, digital in the middle, and conversion impact at the bottom. And you can go a long way towards crafting a strategy with that basic approach.
Yeah, just follow from his point. There's a phrase you have to distinguish between news and noise. And I think that it's true, but at the same time, more importantly, as you guys said, is networking. The people you know will help you, and if they help you get your story out there, if you know people who help you, then everything just kind of falls into place.
Trial and error. Yeah, you're gonna lose some. But that's it. I think we're unfortunately we're out of time. But these are panelists that are willing to stick around and talk to you
Be ready to
afterward.
receive the help.
And so
receive and empower your cloud around you.
There we go. There we go. Work your network. So I'm going to pass it over to
One
Andrew.
final question for TrendKite.
Yes.
We're here for analytics. I know we got off topic today. I'm curious to see, because of our world, in the PR world, of being able to validate ourselves, because we're always the first to go, so is marketing.
Yeah.
And in business, and speaking up to the C-level, up to the board, right? What our value is, what we do, what we deliver, how we generate the leads. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you may
Do it.
help us.
I want to be on the spot.
Yeah, where do you see the analytics in the PR world in 3 to 5 years? Hell, we're in a whole new world now. Look what's happening a year. Just, what are your thoughts?
It's a really good question. I think in all areas you're seeing, here's the interesting thing, and I'm going to try not to take too much time, and I want to follow up with you after too. Think of the quadrants I laid out earlier, right? Paid, earned, shared, owned, the quadrants of marketing. Most of the other 3 quadrants have a lot of technology through them and are starting to employ a lot of things like AI, predictive analytics. Imagine being able to rate a story in terms of how likely it is to be picked up. And I'm writing the same story, and my analytics say, Chad is going to love this story, and Johnny's going to hate it. It's Chad, right? I think there are a lot of things that are going to come of age, taking technologies that are already being used in the other quadrants, to not only help you measure your results and prove them to the C-level, because that's only the start, but to help you strategically shape your approach so you're sending the right message to the right person and becoming noise, not news. And that's very high level, but that's just a perspective. All right.
So there's still questions, and that's awesome. These events are mostly built around discussion. That's why we encourage people to show up before the events, early, and especially with the panel and things like that. The lucky thing is after this event, we're going to be able to hang out too. So this has been upstairs. You're still invited to stay up here. But a really awesome blue show is about to happen downstairs. If you want to follow up with any of our panelists, you can talk to them right after the event. Or you can check in with me, Andrew at MediaTech.Ventures, or Paul at MediaTech.Ventures, and we'll connect you with these mentors and a variety of other mentors. I want to thank Dave for hosting the panel. I want to thank Johnny for playing, Russ for the great night, and all the others from back there for being part of this, and Chad from a variety of publications. This has been awesome. Other piece of good news is you get one more drink ticket at the end of the night. Good up here or downstairs where you can listen to some good blues and drinks.